Muhammadu Abubakar, National President, Commercial Dairy Ranchers Association of Nigeria, is joining me right now via Skype from Kano. Mr. Abubakar, thank you for joining us on the program today. How are you?
I'm very well. Thank you very much for having me.
Okay, let's get started. There was a national dairy policy or stakeholders meeting just a few days ago here in Abuja. Were you at the meeting? Or even if you were not at the meeting, did you get the communique from the meeting, or what came out of the meeting?
Yes, I was in attendance.
Okay, good. Can you just give me a brief of what happened at the meeting just a few days ago? What were the deliberations like?
Yeah, thank you very much. Stakeholders were invited to review a draft dairy policy submitted by the Federal Ministry of Agri in conjunction with Federal Ministry of Trade and Investment to look at the way to come up with a robust policy just as obtained in other countries that will guide the dairy space in Nigeria with emphasis on backward integration by the multinational importers, and also how to prepare the dairy industry to be able to provide enough product for the consumption of Nigerians without necessarily depending on imports. So I think this is the whole idea, and various areas that had stagnated this growth was discussed as presented by the Federal Ministry of Agri, and then some level of understanding was reached between all stakeholders, and the draft was reviewed and then agreed upon and resubmitted back to Federal Ministry of Agri for final presentation to Nigeria's nation. So I think this in brief what happened.
Okay, so in other words, we're going to be expecting a national dairy policy soon.
Sure, that's the whole idea.
Okay, what do you think will be the difference this time? A national dairy policy difference this time, especially from what we have seen in the past. I know we had programs such as the Dairy Development Program, I think so. I think it was called that at the time. Then the federal government also launched the Livestock Improvement Breed Program, I think just almost recently. So what do you think that this new policy, when eventually launched, would be the difference?
Yeah, I think most of these programs you mentioned were intervention programs or ad hoc programs to intervene in the dairy value chain. The difference is this is a holistic approach to the dairy issue, and this is what happens all over the world. No nation will just go into a commodity production, processing, export, or marketing internally without having a robust policy to guide whatever it is that is being done. So this is a kind of a whole, if you like, guide, and we now have a policy that will eventually guide every aspect of dairy, while those intervention programs were targeted at particular aspect of the value chain. This covers the entire value chain of dairy production, processing, and marketing, which means the midstream, the upstream, and the downstream are affected.
Okay, Nigeria spends $1.5 billion every year to import milk into the country, and we import about 60% of our consumption into the country, which is more than half, definitely. How much of a burden of this importation is to the development of the dairy industry in Nigeria?
Yeah, so the policy addressed that very well by now being aggressive on import substitution program. What it means, and the proposal, if I recall correctly, was that import substitution will be importation of dairy products, particularly the solid component, will be substituted by local production over a time frame of 10 years. And this probably, including 10%, for instance, in the first year, the second year, 20%, third year, 30%. It's progressive until at the end of 10 years, we're able to achieve 50% local content of dairy products in the country. Other areas that was addressed was the raise in tariff on imported liquid dairy products. As you know, liquid dairy products constitute 80% water. So all of this while, the country has been wasting foreign exchange to import water to the tune of about, if you look at, we spend about $1.6 billion bringing in dairy products annually, out of which substantial part of it is water. So I don't think there's any country.
Sir, did you just mention that we import water in that sector too? We import water.
Sorry?
Did you just say that we import water?
The component of liquid milk is 80% water, yes. 20% solid content. So by the time you use foreign exchange to bring in liquid milk, you are essentially importing 80% water. So you can bring in solid content and allow Nigerians to mix with our own water and then provide jobs for those that are going to do the mixing.
Wow.
So if you bring in liquid dairy product into the country, you export jobs to those countries where the mixing is done by the youth of that country. The solid content is provided by the dairy farmers of that country. And the water is provided by the water producers, if you like, of that country, or even sourcing water freely. But ultimately, we buy it through our hard and foreign exchange. So by the time we raise the tariff so high, it will discourage people from bringing in liquid milk, and then we'll resort to local mixing with our own water. And in the process, we stop exporting jobs to that country and provide jobs for our youth. So this is the whole idea.
What you just said right now is so disheartening.
Tries to address. So also,
what you just said right now is so disheartening. What you just said right now is so disheartening, in the sense that, of course, most of what we import, 60% of what we import, the $1.5 billion, is majority liquid. So why can't we mix here? And is there no one thinking, or that has been thinking for years, do we need to also import the liquid parts of it? Can't we create jobs with that?
Yeah. Exactly. This is the whole idea. So this is one of the areas that the policy tried to address, and which stakeholders had been, actually, particularly our association, have been hammering on this time in time. So we are happy that the government listened to us and brought up a draft policy, which we all discussed, including the multinationals that are involved in the importation. So another area that was looked at, which is also a dicey area, is importation of vegetable fat feed milk. What's happening also here, the vegetable aspect, which mostly constitutes palm oil, is also produced by other countries, Malaysia, Indonesia, and then they have established a factory in those countries where they bring in skimmed milk from Europe to that country, take the palm oil of that country, mix it with the European milk, and then use foreign exchange of Nigeria to bring in the vegetable fat milk into this country. And it comes again in form of bills for collection. So there's no way local producer will ever compete with this kind of arrangement. So at the end of the day, you see that we also export jobs for palm oil producers of Malaysia and Indonesia, while our own palm oil producers here suffer. Though we must give it to some few or one only of the importers that have backward integrated into processing the vegetable fats here within the country. And I am sure you will see the patronage of Okomo Oil, Presto, and other local palm oil producers companies have been given opportunity to sell their products. So what we are saying is we need to make palm oil production very robust by now enforcing the importers to stop importing vegetable fat over time. and let them reconfigure their local processing equipment to be able to do this mixing also of vegetable fat with skim milk in Nigeria. It also provides jobs for us, it serves us foreign exchange, and it opens the palm oil industry. So this is also what we talk about in the vegetable fat milk aspect of dairy.
Okay.
And then we look at the genetics, because we always know that our own local cows here cannot give you enough to make the dairy production or dairy farming profitable. So over time, we need to improve on the genetics. We need to upgrade. We may not be able to do the black and white cows that obtains in Netherlands because the weather here is against such livestock rearing, but we can cross breed over time. We can take the example of Brazil. They have done that over the years, and they've been able to come with a genetically improved breed that they call Girolando, and it gives as much volume of milk as your local as your Friesian will give in Netherlands. So we need to now, but you cannot do this by fiat. You need to make the industry very profitable and commercially viable for people to invest, so that you will attract direct foreign exchange. You'll attract local investors also to go into it. Another areas that I think the policy had addressed is the issue of cold chain infrastructure, and this is actually lacking. And by the time you make the midstream very attractive to investors, you will see investment in that area. Currently, the investment in the midstream is almost zero, which is the milk collections facilities, the aggregation, and the bulking of the milk. Of course, nobody will invest in that if the multinationals always look up to their foreign collaborators to bring in powdered milk. If at the end of the day the policy insists that they are a component they need to bring from the country, then they will make sure that the local production is improved upon by backward integrating just to meet this import substitution program. And at the end of the day, you'll see jobs are created, foreign exchange savings, and then by extension, the country will be better off, and the economy will be impacted upon positively.
Okay, Mr. Abubakar,
so these are all the things that we discussed.
Yeah. Let me bring in
to review the policy that as presented by the Federal Ministry of Agri.
Let me bring in this, and I should think it should be part of what you all looked at during the meeting, the consistent farmer-header clashes and the ugly pictures or visuals that we see even around the country of cows roaming around. In fact, if we have it now, we can put it on air. I was, after work one of those days, I was driving home. On my way, okay, I was going home. I wasn't the one driving. I had to take those visuals. In the heat of, in the middle of town, if people know Asokoro where AIT is, as we're just going down the Powerhouse Junction and all of that, you can see cows just coming in from the road and just going into the road, all of us there. So we had to wait for cows. And meanwhile, the traffic warden had told us to go. Cows with a young guy just entered the road. I had to film that from my car. These are the kind of ugly pictures that we see around the country, especially even in Abuja. This place is just close to where the president lives, I must say. And we're seeing this kind of ugly pictures of cows roaming around. So how do you think we can, solve the issue of farmer-header crisis, especially as you're seeing even cows roaming around the streets? Our cows should not be roaming around the street right now. In the 21st century, what should be done as the national president of Commercial Dairy Ranchers Association of Nigeria? Mr. Abubakar, are you still there? Okay. The network is freezing. Let's try to reconnect with Muhammadu Abubakar, who is the national president, Commercial Dairy Ranchers Association of Nigeria. And let me get a stake on what I just asked concerning the farmer-header crisis that we're seeing across the country. Okay. Yeah, okay. Go ahead, sir. I can hear you.
Yeah, so as you know, our association is called Commercial Dairy Ranchers Association of Nigeria. What it means is ultimately we will make all activities to be commercially inclined. And once it's commercially inclined, chances are people will like to keep their cows in check, because it's only a cow that is kept in a ranch that will be able to be upgraded scientifically. And also, it's only the cow that is kept in ranch that will be able to give you the required volume of milk that is needed to make the business viable. So at the end of the day, once the policy takes effect, and then the people that are mostly involved in processing this milk look inwards, chances are most people will now be able to calculate the cost of raising animal, and they will keep the animal in check in order to be profitable. As it is now, if you keep a cow and you are going to milk without allowing the cow free range, it's going to be very costly. And I think some of these people take advantage of that. But the policy should be able to force the country to look inward for raw material. And once you look inward for raw material, a lot of people will be able to go into ranching. And as I always said, it's only in Nigeria that particular ethnic group were allowed to do dairy. All over the world, none of
anybody's a business.
Dairy is a business. It's a scientifically based business. People should come into it, for God's sake, and then make it commercially viable, so that it should not be dominated by a particular group, either a pastoralist or a herdsman or farmer. No, it becomes an activity that you get involved because you want to invest in a business to make money.
Okay.
So once the enabling environment is there, which the policy hopefully is going to address, people will come into dairy production scientifically and then commercially viable. Okay. That is when you will stop seeing all this crisis, because now it's not dominated by a particular group of people. It becomes an activity that is attracting commercially interested groups. So okay. I think, to me, this is the way to go. Make it viable and then make it a ranch. So okay. The roaming about is completely uninteresting to anybody that is commercially inclined to dairy production.
Okay.
And I'm sure
I think
when we are able to get the right environment, people will automatically get into that. And then you will roll out a policy that roaming around by cows should be in a way.
I think there's that policy already now. I think the policy exists already, even here in Abuja. I don't know of other places. I think the policy is existent even in other parts of the country. But yeah, okay, you can't hear me, sir. What I'm saying actually is that I think that policy exists, that is inhibiting roaming of cows or cattle across the country. But anyway, thank you very much, sir, for joining us today. Let's do this again sometime soon, because we need to take a look at the development of the sector. Thank you very much for joining us. I've been speaking with Muhammad Abubakar, who is the National President, Commercial Dairy Ranchers Association of Nigeria. We've been talking about the development in the dairy sector of the country. That's the much we can take on today's edition of the program. Thank you all for watching. I am Nancy Naji. Be the best you can be the change you want to see. Bye now.